Hey, good morning, everyone. Morning warm up. This morning I was listening to Impact Theory, Tom, and he had basically the habits of billionaires, right? The consistent habits of billionaires. So I'm going to share that podcast with you on this warm up today, but I would highly recommend you listen to it. But I just took a couple notes. And so one of the things they talked about in there was our identity based habits, our identity based life. And James Clear talks about this in his book, Atomic Habits. Escaped me for a minute. Anyways, and so here's what I want you to think about. Your identity is kind of like a thermostat, if you will. So think about a thermostat in your house. When the temperature gets too hot, right, the thermostat brings the temperature back down to where you set it at. And when the temperature gets too cold, it brings the temperature up to where you set it. And your identity is the same way, right? If you're cruising along and you have this identity of who you are and what you can accomplish, and all of a sudden something is very, very difficult, then what you do is your identity will just bring you back down to this area. And so the challenge is you have to ask yourself this question: is your identity-based habits, the habits that you're performing every day, are they getting you to where you want to go? And if they aren't, then maybe it's time you change that identity of who you are. And the reason you know this is that many times when something's going on, you can tell where your identity-based habits are based on your internal voice. That internal voice is powerful because that internal voice is kind of like the number setting on your thermostat, if you will. And so he gave three things in there, and I want you to listen to the podcast, please. But there's three things in there that he talked about. Number one is this: if you want to change your identity, find people in your life that have that identity that you want and hang out with them. Find people that are going to ask more of you than you ask of yourself, and be in their presence, right? And I think it's Jim Rohn that says we become the average of the 5 people that we hang around with the most, and that includes health and wealth and mindset. So I want you to think about that. Number two is this: do things that are difficult every single day, right? It's impossible until you achieve it. Think about that, right? It's impossible until you achieve it. How many of you are willing to push yourself and do difficult things every single day? Because here's the last one that does. When you do difficult things and you have success, and you do those things, or even if you have failure, what happens is if you learn from that failure or you have that success, you increase your confidence. And when you increase your confidence, you increase your competence. And when your competence goes up, guess what changes? Your identity, right? Because now your inside voice is in alignment, says, hey, I am the person who gets up early. I am the person who eats healthy. I am the person who listens really, really well. I am the person who's not the smartest one in the room, but chooses to listen and learn from everybody that I talk to, right? And all of a sudden, now when your identity changes, guess what? Your actions that you take begin to change. So identity is really, really critical. So I want you to ask yourself today, is the identity that you're attaching yourself to today, your narrative of who you are, is it benefiting you? And if it's not, think about these things, and please go listen to the podcast that I'm going to put a link to. There's some great stuff in there. He talks to 3 different individuals who are doing some pretty phenomenal things. So it's important. All right, everybody, hey, make it a great day. Be awesome. Help somebody.